Good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're so happy to have you with us on this gorgeous Sunday. Hopefully that's so wherever you are. It is here anyway. Well, our theme for 2020 is 2020 Spiritual Vision. Our October theme is Cosmic Connection. And Reverend Dusty's talk title today is Bridge Over Troubled Water. I'm now going to read our community's purpose statement. And this is our reason for being here. Our purpose is to inspire, educate, and empower individuals to experience themselves as unique and individualized expressions of God, the love intelligence that governs the universe. We are committed to not merely a theoretical understanding of our oneness and unity with God, but to consciously practice this truth in our everyday lives. Through celebration, service, study, and fellowship, we are committed to the transformation of our personal lives into being a powerful and beneficial presence on the planet. With the energy of unconditional love, simply, we are here for God. And so it is. So I'm going to invite you now to take a few moments to center. I welcome you to close your outer eyes just for a moment. Take a deep, cleansing breath, releasing all tension of arriving in the moment you're in on your exhale. Just be still. Allow the healing sounds of the crystal bowls to wash over you, reaching your innermost space of divinity.
I invite you to begin to bring your attention back into your bodies and into your rooms and remain turned within as I speak a word of invocation upon our service. Certainly not evoking the presence of Spirit, for the presence of Spirit is always present. That inner spark of divinity, that light within us, that unconditional love at the center of our being, that core of peace that is truly who and what we are. I know that I am one with this inner divinity. It is that which created me out of itself in a moment of unconditional love. And just as that is true for me, I know that it is true for each and every person here in the sanctuary this morning, each and every person on Facebook Live, on Zoom, in our entire community, all sentient beings on the planet. Each and every single one of us is an ambassador of the presence of the divine. A hologram of its presence in its fullness and in its wholeness is right where we are, every moment of every day. And it is from that place of unity that I bless our time together, calling it good and very, very good as it is even just beginning. knowing that it is a divine appointment that God is having through and as each of us individually and collectively, and that it flows with grace and ease from beginning to end. I bless all of the volunteers without which there could be no service today. The practitioners, Michelle and Dr. Mike, as they come forward to graciously serve this community from the depths of their consciousness. Letha and Miles, as they come forward to share their gift of song. Mark and Ava and Kathy back in the AV booth, and Heather, who handles all of it. And I bless every single person online this morning, grateful for the presence of the love in this community, of the support that we offer each other, and our willingness to do the inner work as we walk this spiritual path together. And so for all of the blessings, those that I'm aware of and those I can't even begin to imagine, I am grateful. We anchor this together simply by saying, and so it is. Amen. Amen. It is now my pleasure to welcome, after a little time of being away, our awesome practitioner, Dr. Mike Morczynski.
Thank you, Reverend Dusty, and hi to everyone that I haven't seen or spoken to in a long time. It's good to be here. And Michelle, will you join me for the blessings of all faiths? The Triangle Center for Spiritual Living honors the diversity and threads of truth that run through all spiritual paths, as represented by this ceremony. Christianity is the path of Christ consciousness, love, and forgiveness. Buddhism is the path of compassion and understanding. Judaism is the ethical path of living by sacred law. Baha'i is the path of unity and peace. Islam is the path of submission to the will of God, the highest calling. Confucianism is the path of deliberate tradition. Taoism is the natural way, the path of ultimate reality. Native American practice and shamanic traditions are the path of primal spirituality. Shintoism is the path of tribal ancestry. Hinduism is the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. Science of mind and spirit is the path of the divine principle of love and law. And the heart represents the one heart, the one love that resides at the center of all people and all beings everywhere, with no exceptions. May peace prevail on earth through the followers of all paths. And so it is. Thank you, Michelle. The reading today is from Desmond Tutu. He says, "The quality of human life on our planet is nothing more than the sum total of our daily interactions with one another. Each time we help and each time we harm, we have a dramatic impact on our world. Because we are human, some of our interactions will go wrong, and then we will hurt or be hurt or both. It is the nature of being human, and it is unavoidable. Forgiveness is the way to set those interactions right. It is the way we mend tears in the social fabric. It is the way we stop our humanity from unraveling." Desmond Tutu, and so it is. So take a moment, and I'm going to speak an invocation, so close your outer eyes if you feel comfortable, and let that inner light, that beacon within you, shine. I recognize in this moment that there is one life, one presence, and one power. This presence and power is in everything and everyone without exception. It is the love, the compassion, the kindness, the joy, the energy, the sweetness and the softness, the sun, the light, the day, the night. It is everything that there is. It is all that there is. And we are all one with all of this. We are all a part of that fabric, one knit universe, expressing individually and collectively. And as I begin this service, I speak a blessing on the service itself, knowing that it is perfect, whole, and complete as it begins. I speak a blessing on Reverend Dusty, knowing that she is the perfect representative, the perfect example of an expression of life, of love, of God. I speak a blessing on Miles and Letha as they bring their talents and gifts and express and share them with us. I speak a blessing on everyone in this room who has contributed in any way to this service being what it is, and all those at home who are enjoying it in the privacy of their home on Zoom or Facebook. And it is from this place I ask you to join me by saying, and so it is. And I'd like to have you join me with welcoming Miles and Letha.
Good morning. It's always good to be here with you. People get ready, there's a train a-coming. You don't need no baggage, you just get on board. All you need is faith to feel the diesel humming. You don't need no ticket, you just thank the Lord. So people get ready for the train to Jordan, picking up passengers from coast to coast. Faith is the key, open the doors and board them. There's hope for all among those loved the most. The hopeless sinner who'd hurt all mankind just to save his own. Have pity on those whose chances grow thinner, 'cause there's no hiding place against the kingdom's throne. So people get ready, there's a train a-coming. Don't need no baggage, you just get on board. All you need is faith to hear the diesels humming. You don't need no ticket, you just thank the Lord. I said you don't need no ticket, you just thank the Lord.
Thank you so very much. That was beautiful. Welcome to those of you who may have just jumped onto Facebook Live or onto Zoom. We're very grateful that you have chosen to share your morning with us this morning. The theme for the month of October is Cosmic Connection, and my talk title today is Bridge Over Troubled Water. The first thing that came up for me as I thought about the title was the song by the same name. Bridge Over Troubled Water was written by Paul Simon in 1969, and it was recorded by Paul Simon and Art Garfunkel in 1970. When you're weary, feeling small, when tears are in your eyes, I will dry them all. I'm on your side when times get rough and friends just can't be found. Like a bridge over troubled water, I will lay me down. Probably one of the most widely held ideas about the meaning of the song is providing comfort to a friend, being that bridge over troubled waters when the other person needs to be lifted up, when they need to be lifted up away from their troubles. When you're down and out, when you're on the street, when evening falls so hard, I will comfort you. I'll take your part when darkness comes and pain is all around. Like a bridge over troubled water, I will lay me down. It means a place of safety, a place of comfort, a place of security. When waters are troubled or turbulent or fast flowing really fast or possibly dangerous, a bridge provides a place away from the drama and the confusion. While I believe that this is a very beautiful sentiment, something we could talk about for a long time this morning, and something that I strive to be for the people in my life and appreciate that others are that for me, another thought arose out of last Sunday's talk, inextricably connected. If we are, truly inextricably connected, which I believe that we are, it means to everything and everyone with no exceptions. For me, that means not only with our loved ones or with our friends or with our extended family, but everyone on the planet. So in this moment, are we really in a place where we can be that bridge over troubled waters for everyone? Even those that we have challenges with, even those that we are holding out of our hearts. In this moment, are we in a place where we can build bridges of unconditional acceptance for one another and for ourselves? Who do we have to be and what do we have to do in order for that to happen? Now, as I continued to think about this song, that phrase, like a bridge over troubled water, I will lay me down, kept coming back to me. I will lay me down. The small me, the me with a little m, the small self, the self with a small s, the resentments, the blame, the anger, the judgments, the self-doubt, and the anger that is sometimes within us. I will lay me down, that me. I will lay me down on the altar of the divine. I will lay me down on the altar of love. So today the invitation is to turn to forgiveness. To turn to forgiveness, to create the space for being a bridge over troubled water for others and for ourselves. Forgiveness means different things to different people. Psychologists generally define forgiveness as a conscious or deliberate decision to release feelings of resentment or of revenge or vengeance towards a person or a group of people that have harmed us. It is letting go of negative emotions and finding the willingness to have an increased ability to wish the offender well. The act that hurt or offended us might stay with us for a really long time, but forgiveness can lessen its grip on us and assist us to truly be able to experience freedom in our lives. Forgiveness is a choice. It's a choice that allows us to more fully live our lives. It may also give the person that we forgive, whether we're talking about someone else or we're talking about ourselves, a chance to live in peace. Forgiveness brings a kind of peace that allows us to go on with life. Really, the bottom line is that if we don't practice forgiveness, we might be the one that pays most dearly. By embracing forgiveness, we are also embracing hope and gratitude and joy. Forgiveness can lead us down the path of physical and mental and emotional and spiritual well-being. The act of forgiveness opens up our hearts and allows for positive movement in the evolution of every one of us. To spiritually mature, we have to be willing to forgive. Just as important as defining what forgiveness is, it is as important to define what forgiveness is not. Forgiveness is different from condoning, which is failing to see the action as wrong and in need of forgiveness. Forgiveness is different from excusing, which is not holding the offender responsible for their actions. Forgiveness is different from forgetting, which is removing our awareness of the offense from our consciousness. And forgiveness is different from reconciliation, which means a restoration of a relationship. Forgiveness is not letting the offender off the hook. So many people choose, not to forgive, or they struggle to forgive because they feel like it means that we're letting the offender off the hook. It does not mean that we're letting them off the hook. We can and still should hold people accountable for their actions or for their lack of action. It's not letting the offense reoccur again and again. We don't have to tolerate, nor should we keep ourselves open to lack of respect or any other kind of abuse. It's not the same as reconciling. Though forgiveness can and will help to repair a damaged relationship, it does not obligate us to reconcile with the person that we are forgiving. We can forgive someone even though we never spend another moment of time with them ever in our lives. Forgiveness doesn't mean that we have to revert to being the victim. Forgiving is not saying, what you did was okay, go ahead and walk all over me. Nor is it playing the martyr, enjoying the activity of forgiving people because it perpetuates our victim role. Forgiving doesn't mean that you forget or agree with the past. It is normal, absolutely normal, for memories to be triggered in the future. When thoughts of past hurts come up, it's what we do with those thoughts, what we do with the thoughts that we have and what we tell ourselves about those past hurts that really affect our life in the present moment. It is those thoughts that count. It's about taking our insights and our realizations from the experience forward with us into this present moment and into the future, and releasing ourselves and others any indebtedness that we might feel has been occurred. Forgetting doesn't mean denying reality or ignoring repeated offenses. Some people can just simply be obnoxious. They can be mean-spirited. They can be apathetic, or they can be unreliable when they are living from their lower selves. They may choose never, ever in their life to change. So in order for us to be able to live our best life, we need to change the way that we respond to them. And we need to quit expecting them to be different from who they are. Forgiveness is a process, it's not an event. And it might take some time for us to be able to do the inner work, to work through our emotional issues so that we can truly forgive. And yet the invitation is to forgive as soon and as quickly as possible, as soon and as quickly as we are able to do. This allows the power of forgiveness to empower us to recognize the pain that we suffered, but not to be defined by the pain. This enables us to be able to heal and to move on with our lives. Otherwise, we tend to get stuck. When we forgive, we give ourselves the gift of life. The act of forgiveness releases us from the hold that the past can have on us. The act of forgiveness can also release us from the hold that the circumstances that we might be going through can also have on us. The hold that those circumstances can have on us in the moment. We release ourselves through forgiveness from the burden of anger and pain. And when we do that, we free up our energy so that we can be present to actually live in the perfect now moment. By not forgiving, anger, pain, regret, resentment can really tend to just consume our lives and keep us from experiencing the good that we desire to experience in our lives, to keep us from experiencing the good that we deserve in our lives. Instead, forgiveness gives us a certain peace of mind, and it frees us from that corrosive anger. While there's some debate over whether true forgiveness requires that we absolutely find a way to have some positive feelings towards the offender, experts will at least agree that at the very least, forgiveness requires that we let go of deeply held negative feelings about them. In an article called "Forgiveness is an Inside Job," Carly Hawk says, "The practice of forgiveness can feel totally counterintuitive sometimes. We think we find strength in our anger, but holding on to anger or resentment actually limits how we show up in the present because we're still feuding over the story. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting or pardoning of an offense. It means acknowledging the grievance and the feelings it creates, acknowledging that people are wounded, flawed, and messy, including myself, putting appropriate boundaries in place, letting go, and moving on." The first step in the act of forgiveness is to acknowledge our experience, to be true to our human feelings by recognizing our hurt, our pain, our anger, our resentments, the fears or the doubts that might come up for us during the experience. To recognize them, to acknowledge them, to honor them, to actually feel them. The next step is to identify any part that we have played in the experience itself, and to identify that, but to also be self-compassionate in the process, and to acknowledge the insights that we might have because of it. The third step is to look for the blessings in the experience. In the science of mind philosophy, life is always for us and never against us. As such, it's important to look for the blessing. Now, the blessing could show up as either something that the situation brings to us, or something that the situation is spiritually calling forth from us. So it could look like either way, but we believe that there is always some kind of a blessing within it, some kind of a lesson for us. Forgiveness is not always easy, but it is a choice that we can make, a choice that we really need to make. Forgiveness is capable of producing some of the most profound transformation that we could ever hope for or imagine in our lives or in the lives of others. Forgiveness has the power to heal both our inner and our outer lives. It can change how we see ourselves and how we see others. It can change how we experience the world. It can bring an end once and for all to the inner conflicts that so many of us carry around within us every moment of every day, of every week, of every month, of every year, forever and ever. It could bring to an end once and for all those inner conflicts. It is said that forgiveness is for ourselves and not for another, because the experience of not forgiving imprisons us. It imprisons us, and it actually poisons our own lives. Forgiving is not condoning the unloving or the unjust actions on the part of anyone. It is simply choosing not to drag around the weight of the past into the present or into the future. It is consciously choosing to let go of the old and to create space for a new experience in our lives. The invitation is to be clear about the freedom that we wish to experience, to be clear about the goodness that we wish to experience, and then to finally forgive, to release, and to let go. Edwene Gaines says, "Forgiveness frees us from the endless loop of blame and bad feelings that keep our minds focused on all of the wrong things. With forgiveness, we let go of the past and turn to other, more important issues in our lives, such as how to truly be happy, to have the things that we want, and to thrive with a sense that we are joyfully fulfilling our life's purpose." In order to truly forgive, we need to be willing to release the past. In order to truly forgive, we need to be willing to see the divine unfolding in all people, in all interactions, in all of our relationships, in all of the events of our lives, and all of the experiences, including those that we experience as unpleasant or less than pleasant, those things we would prefer that we didn't have to go through. In order to forgive, we need to be willing to see perfection within that which appears to be imperfect. In order to forgive, we have to have a heartfelt desire to be free. It is our choice. And as a choice, we can always choose to hang on to anger, or to hang on to resentment, or to hang on to thoughts of revenge, but we can also choose to embrace forgiveness and to move forward in our lives unencumbered by all of those other kinds of feelings. In the Bible, Jesus often spoke about forgiveness. Paul Farini has an entire ministry based on radical forgiveness. Forgiveness is one of the Science of Mind 10 core concepts, and is also present in Ernest Holmes' What We Believe statements. One of the statements says, "We see a worldwide culture in which forgiveness, whether for errors, injustices, or debts, is the norm." The Science of Mind point of view is that God knows only wholeness, perfection, and completion, and sees all of humankind as whole, perfect, and complete. God knows nothing to forgive. Forgiveness is a human process by which we move from the idea of our separation from God to the recognition of our unity with God. Forgiveness is a shift in consciousness from fear to love. It moves us out of victimhood into a recognition that life always supports us, no matter what our human perceptions seem to be saying to us at any given moment. Probably not a whole lot more to say about why we should forgive. The question now on everybody's mind is probably, well, how do we do that? What are some practical suggestions to be able to forgive ourselves and others? On Wednesday evenings this month, we are looking at the wisdom of Jen Sincero in her book, You Are a Badass. How to Stop Doubting Your Greatness and Start Living an Awesome Life. One of the chapters in her book is called Forgive or Fester. Fester. I don't like that word. To forgive or fester. It's kind of like an onomatopoeia. It sounds like what it is, right? Forgive or fester. So this morning I'm going to share some of her ideas, some of her practical ideas. Number one, find compassion. Now, one of the very best ways that we can find compassion for others or for ourselves is to think about others or ourselves as a little kid. A little kid who is acting out of fear. A little kid who is doing the very best that they can to protect themselves. A little kid who is simply attempting to get through this particular experience in the only way that they know how. When we understand that people act poorly because they are in pain or they are confused or both, we may find our way into some compassion for them. When we really believe that if people knew better, they would have done better, then we're able to forgive them or we're able to forgive ourselves. Remember that everyone is doing the very best that they can given the combination of upbringing and conditioning that they have, and given their particular experiences and their interpretation of their particular experiences to date. When we're able to remember this, forgiveness will lead to feelings of understanding, empathy, and compassion. Number two, erase the other person from the equation. In describing this idea, Jen asks the reader to imagine themselves hanging out in their brand new speedboat. Their brand new speedboat that is just floating on a very nice, calm body of water on an absolutely beautiful sunny day. Out of the blue, without any kind of warning at all, a boat with nobody in it floats up next to your boat, crashes into it, and leaves a big old scratch. There's no one there to get mad at, so in all probability, we're going to handle the situation in a much calmer, more inquisitive kind of way. If someone was actually driving the boat, we would probably get mad and go off on that person. We would probably deal with the situation in a much different way. Be honest. I'm just saying. Now, the thing to think about, however, is that either way, the boat has the exact same scratch. What's done is done. Only our reaction is different, which says that we have a choice in the matter. We can choose when we're being conscious. Sometimes we're not so conscious and we just go into reaction mode, but we can choose how we react in situations. And according to Jen, one choice puts us at risk of bursting an artery in our head or in our heart, while the other choice actually opens our heart. In the end, one has us feeling better in the moment and is much better for our overall health and well-being. The invitation is to consider reacting from a place in which the other person has been taken out of the equation. Number 3, decide that you'd rather be happy than right. Sometimes the road to freedom lies in choosing, again, we have a choice, to be happy rather than right. Jen says, instead of spinning out on it for days, wouldn't it feel so much better to just let it go? Is it really worth lugging around all those foul feelings just so that you can be right? Think to yourself, what do I have to do or not do or think or not think right now to be happy? And if the answer is, let the jackass think he's right, then let it be so. Just let it be so. Nobody's going to remember it down the road anyway. Number 4, look at it from all angles. The invitation here is to remember that we do not know everybody's story. We cannot always know where they are coming from or why they are acting like they are acting. All of us are living in our own self-created illusion, and what seems right for us might feel so wrong for someone else, culturally or because of how they grow up or racially or sexually. It might feel really, really right for you, but it could be so wrong for someone else, and vice versa. The invitation is to open up to a different perspective, to let loose our white-knuckled stranglehold on the idea that it has to be my way or the highway. When we do so, we may experience just how quickly our resentment actually resolves. And lastly, number 5, forget about it. The invitation here is that once we have forgiven someone, we need to wipe the slate clean. So often we form judgments about people that linger long after the forgiveness has happened, so that everything that they do from that moment on is seen through that lens of our judgments, which really, in reality, simply means that we're just waiting for them to screw up again. Remember that whatever we put our focus on creates more of that which we are focusing on. So if we keep believing and expecting people to annoy us, then they will annoy us. They won't let us down. They will never be able to show up in any other way other than the way that we have judged that they are always going to show up. They're not going to be able to show up in any other way other than the way we say they are going to show up. For me, the bottom line is that without forgiveness, we will not thrive individually and collectively as a world community. Imagine the peace that could come to our planet if all of the people in the world were to let go of old grievances with neighbors. Imagine what could happen if all of the people in the world would let go of century-old battles over cultural differences, over race differences, over religious differences, over political differences, over sexual differences, and stood in our cosmic connection. The invitation today is to do the inner work, to be willing to stand in our unity with God and with all of life, with every one and everything without exceptions, to recognize our inextricable connection, and to have the courage, yes, the courage to be forgiving so that we all can, individually and collectively, be a bridge over troubled waters for each other as we move forward toward a world that works for everyone. And so it is. And so it is. So I invite you to turn within, to allow yourself to move to that inner space of divinity one more time together. To remember that which is back of everything. The power and presence of that which I call God, but goes by many different names. But by whatever name we call it, it is the very essence of unconditional love, of peace, of joy, of creativity, of abundance, of grace, and of freedom. It is benevolent. It is everywhere at all times, in its fullness and in its wholeness. It is energy with no circumference and points of center everywhere. I know that I am one of those points, that right where I am, God is. And just as I know that this is my truth, I know that it is the truth of each and every person within the sound of my voice. Each and every person, every sentient being on the planet. And it is from that place of unity that I speak these words about and for each of us individually and collectively as the triangle center for spiritual living. Knowing truly that we are spiritual beings having a human incarnation, that we are connected to our divinity in ways that can never be broken, that we are connected to life in ways that can never be separate, that we are connected to each other in ways that are inextricably connected. We form a cosmic connection, intertwined and interwoven, a tapestry, if you will, created by that golden thread of God's stuff that weaves itself throughout all of life. And because of that, I know that it is possible, absolutely possible, to create a world that works for everyone. And I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that in order to do that, we need to find a way to forgive ourselves and each other. Not to forget, not to not hold people accountable, but to forgive. To loosen the hold that we have on the foul feelings that come up around that. The pain, the resentment, the anger, the fear, the judgment, the revenge. To let loose those feelings and stand firmly grounded in the truth of who we are as unconditionally loving beings. That is the essence of who we are, each and every single one of us, with no exception. Let's let that light shine. I claim ease and grace for us around finding that forgiveness and extending it to each other. Ease and grace around stepping into our highest selves, laying that me with a small m or that self with a small s on the altar of God, on the altar of love, and actually letting forgiveness, letting love, letting understanding, letting kindness lead the way to a magnificent life for all of us. I'm so grateful to know this truth and so grateful to speak these words. So grateful for the power of prayer, knowing that these words are loosed into a law that only ever says yes, that my words are clothed in form even as they are spoken. And so I speak them and I release them with love and gratitude and full expectation of their manifestation. Letting go and letting God be God. And I invite all of us to anchor this prayer for ourselves, for each other, for our community, simply by saying, and so it is, and so it is. Amen. Thank you all. It is now time for our conscious giving. And so I just invite everyone to take a moment to really acknowledge the abundance that we all truly have in our lives. And to know that as we are willing to acknowledge it, that turning our attention upon it actually expands it. And as we are willing to share of some of it, we draw unto ourselves through that gratitude more to be grateful about. And as we are willing to share of some of that abundance, whether it is our time, our talent, or our treasure, we powerfully step into the flow of life, that giving and receiving are one and the same. We can't have one without the other. I'm grateful for these gifts, however big or small, knowing that they allow this community to continue to do the work that we are doing, to continue to be a beacon of light and warmth and love in the greater Triangle area. That the giving of these gifts prospers the one giving and increases the energy of sufficiency on the planet. Please repeat after me. I'm grateful for all that I receive. And I'm grateful for all that I may give. And so it is. Amen. It is now my privilege and my pleasure to welcome back up to their mics the awesome Miles and Letha Costin.
Dusty. Always right on time, the message when we come here. And this is a song that Miles and I wrote quite a while ago. And I think the cool thing about it is, I think part of forgiveness is being able to start over, start fresh, and have a brand new day.
Sometimes it takes time till I finally realize we're all walking the same thin line with blinders on our eyes.
I'm not sure where I'll end up, but at least I'm on my way. I know that nothing's perfect, but for now, that's perfectly okay.
'Cause it's a brand new day. Ooh, brand new day. Last night I stood on shaky ground, wrapped tight inside my mind. Nerves are still too tightly wound, with no way to unwind.
I don't grieve so much for what I lost, more for what I never gained. I keep going and pay the cost for reasons I cannot explain.
Well, it's a brand new day. Ooh, brand new day. Ooh. Here we go, guys. When fear and desperation get stuck inside my chest, I'm free to find the relation between where I lie and where I lie my head.
But when I wake up, if my outlook's looking gray, I pull the shades up and remember I don't have to be afraid. No, no,
Well, it's a
no.
brand new day. Ooh.
Thank you, Miles and Letha. So a couple announcements before we do our affirmation. So if anyone would like prayer, please go to the Triangle Center for Spiritual Living website. And on the homepage up in the right-hand corner, there's a button you can click and fill out the form, and we will make sure that gets to the practitioners and the ministers, and they can hold you in prayer. Also, please consider joining us for Let's Stay Together on Zoom immediately following the service. If you're on Zoom, just stay and hang around. If you're on Facebook, go over to Zoom, and we'll be available. So in the comfort of your home, we're going to do our October affirmation. So if you don't mind, you could stand up at home, shout out nice and loud. I don't know if we'll hear you, but we'll try. I recognize that we are all connected to each other by a power greater than we are. That we are all connected to each other by a power greater than we are. The connection that is happening everywhere is the same connection. The connection that is happening everywhere is the same connection. It's the movement of the divine within us, around us, and between us. It is the movement of the divine within us, around us, and between us. I believe in the unity of all life and celebrate this deep and abiding connection. To experience love and compassion is to experience our connection with God. To experience love and compassion is to experience our connection to God. Today, I reflect all of God's love and compassion outwardly. Today, I reflect all of God's love and compassion outwardly. And as I do so, each person I meet has the same experience through me. We are whole. We are loved. We are healed. And so it is. So I'm going to do the benediction. There will be a song afterwards, so please stay around and also to join us on Zoom. So if you would join me and close our outer eyes for one last time to conclude the service. And take a breath. And as I spoke earlier, let that inner light shine, that presence and power within you, within all of us, that energy that we have a choice to express, that energy that loves us unconditionally, that energy that is compassionate, caring, gentle, and always available. It never leaves. We are never separate from it, although we may think we are. It is still always there. It is the bridge over troubled waters. It is that source that we have to turn to when we feel less than. It is that energy that fills us with love and kindness. And we recognize it as one with us, and I recognize it as one with everyone. It is from this place of recognition and unity that I know for all that I ask you to join me by saying, and so it is.